Welcome to GenderMeowster Podcast Network. Genderful is a talk show featuring non-binary and trans folks discussing various topics and special interests. We kindly remind our listeners that no person is a monolith of identities. All opinions are the speaker's own. This show airs live on Twitch at twitch.tv/GenderMeowster, and VODs with show notes can also be found on YouTube. So, hello. We have UncleBear on stream with us today. Hello, UncleBear.
Hello.
It's so delightful to have you here. Thanks for all your patience with the tech things.
Thank you for being so gentle about the tech things.
we did do a slightly different setup than I usually do today. We're using Zoom so that all UncleBear has to do is Zoom, and I can do all the other shenaniganery.
Thank you. That is so appreciated. Yeah. When I saw that document, I had a moment of like, oh, so yeah, thank you.
Well, maybe I should adapt to using Zoom more regularly for folks. It's probably a good idea.
I still don't even understand what Discord is, really. I'll be honest.
It's okay. It's okay. It's like Facebook and Reddit had a baby, and I would say it is a way to have community that is a little bit more anonymous and a little more secure, and there's no weird marketing ad tracking crap like on so much of other social media stuff.
That is a bonus. That's a value add for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
So, will you tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, your pronouns, maybe how you picked your name or got your name?
Oh, okay.
We'd love to hear some of that stuff.
UncleBear Klein. My pronouns are he and they. Strong emphasis on the he.
Mm-hmm.
I was gifted my name.
That's cool.
Almost 17 years ago, I was asked to be the godfather of two littles. And this was with a beloved friend of mine that I've known for now 30 years, like 34 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she was very pregnant and she asked me to be the godfather. And then another beloved of mine who I've known for even longer, all of us went to college together. We were like, what are you going to call? What are we going to call you? And my other friend said, you're UncleBear. And all of us went, yeah, I'm UncleBear. That's right, I'm UncleBear. And so I just thought it was going to be a family of choice name.
Yeah.
And then it jumped into my work. I ran an employment preparation training class. I managed a class and helped co-design a class in Chicago for 10 years. And I was working at the Broadway Youth Center with a bunch of youth. And they had gorgeous names, from everything from like Starbeam to Tulip to like Razor, all these incredible, wonderful names. And they were a gender fiesta of love. And when we came to naming ourselves, everyone had to write their name on a placard. And I encouraged people to pick whatever name resonated with them for the month that we're going to be together. So we went around and I showed them my name and they said, no, that's not your name. I said, yeah, that's my name. And they said, no, that's not your name. And I had that moment of dissonance of going, oh, here's this name and the people that I'm serving are basically rejecting this name. Like, what do you do in that moment? And then I said, okay, how about this? And I wrote out UncleBear. And they went, that's your name. That's your name. And I went, okay. So I started, that was in 2006. I started being called UncleBear at work and in my professional life. And then finally in 2010, when I went to my first witch camp, I still had not gotten to the point of UncleBear being my name 24/7. And again, you can have, for the witch camp experience, you can have a name that's magical. You can have a name that holds whatever kind of energy that you want for the time. And I realized it was UncleBear. And so at that point in 2010, I was like, okay, it's pretty clear. This is my name.
I love that so much.
So that is where my name came from. So and the
cool.
bear energy has been energy that I've had my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And because the audience might wonder later, and we also negotiated me asking you this question ahead of time, if people are worried about it. How young are you, Uncle Bear?
I am 57 years old.
Wow.
And young. And
yes.
neither.
Yes.
And there you go. I'm a very big and person.
I was going to say, is and your favorite word?
And is a really delicious word. I love the word
word
and. It's a great word.
It's so great.
Yeah.
So we have a person whose internet name is Pie Sharp, but goes by C. You might know C, and says, "Uncle Bear, so cool to see you on the show. My worlds collide. Big love from C." SEA.
Oh, C. Oh. Hi. Oh.
So C is part of Transplanar RPG and does trans tabletop gaming stuff, and I love Transplanar's content so much. So Pie Sharp is here visiting. Pie Sharp says, "I feel so lucky to have spent time with Uncle Bear. What an incredible guiding force you are in the world." Ooh.
Thank you.
Yeah, so remember when I said I was posting in like 60 Discords? Transplantar RPG is one of those Discords. So Pie Sharp is here now saying,
so it's all this cross-pollination.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Right on.
Or it was Twitter. I don't know how Pi found us today, but yeah. So for those in the chat, Uncle Bear cannot see the Twitch chat because we're keeping it simple for our trans elders and not making it complicated. So I will be reading the important bits of chat to Uncle Bear.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. My pleasure. I have such a big grin on my face. This is so fun already. We haven't even really gotten too far. I'm just having a great time. I love it so much. Okay. Name, pronouns. What do you do when you're not on this talk show? What do you do the rest of the time with your life? Like, just what are you up to these days?
I love people.
Yeah. It's a pretty great thing
no,
to
really,
do.
That is like that's what I get to do. So, okay, so the galvanizing forces of my life are my 5 core values, and connection is one of the most important of those. So I've managed to organize my life around showing up to my 5 core values, trying to live them, failing wonderfully, magnificently, and then sometimes being successful. And I am, by trade, I'm a trainer. So I create, design curriculum, and then I deliver it to organizations. And that's one of the things that I do. I'm a life coach.
Like for working out, for having emotional literacy in the workplace, for what kind of trainer do you mean?
Any kind of, like, the shorthand would be HR training. So think about communication skills, conflict resolution, job retention, all those kind of things, but also the core values. So for instance, I created a retreat on curiosity that I did for a weekend. So we focused on curiosity and how to use it, because it's such a gorgeous, super powered tool in our lives that is really relegated to this tertiary place. We really take it for granted, and it has tremendous power and potential to help liberate ourselves and communities and the world. So I take ideas that I find fascinating, and then I go and see all the sources of people who actually know what the hell they're doing. I lovingly give credit, but I steal from them with love. And then I try to synthesize that information and then present it to human beings so that they can recognize themselves in different ways, and they can liberate themselves, and they can then take anything that resonates and hopefully cross-pollinate it out into the world. And so I get paid to do that, sometimes by nonprofits, sometimes every now and then for profits. I get paid sometimes by individuals. Right now I have a Patreon that's paying me some money, not that much, but paying me a little bit of money. And so I try to do gigs, and then I try to live very minimally and frugally, so that I don't do the horrible thing that most of us do, which is trade time for money. Because I think that's one of the worst parts of capitalism, is that we trade time for money. And I try not to do that as much. So
yeah. Well, if anyone,
and I'm a content creator, I guess, right?
Are.
Just like you.
You
there
are
you go.
On YouTube.
On YouTube, I got a YouTube channel too.
You do. So for those who are watching live, we have a timer that's posting the Patreon and YouTube links in the chat that you can follow anytime. You can also do !guest to have that information presented to you. And if you're watching this later, this information will also be in the show notes. I will copy paste it over right meow just to make sure it makes it into the show notes. Yeah, it is already there. Perfect. So it's so great. So I actually, I met you years ago before I don't even know if I was out as non-binary yet at the time. I don't remember.
I don't think so.
I'm trying to remember where I lived when I like came out and started using my name. It might have been right around then.
Yeah, I think it was that very fertile time for you.
Yeah, right at the beginning. And so here we are years later, and I'm like on HRT and like married. I was like living in our mutual friend's basement with my cat, just trying to be a person and have a job. And now look at me.
So great.
Adventures.
Adventures.
It is so great.
Indeed.
Yeah, you were actually one of the first sort of trans-masculine people that I met that, like, I remember meeting, who was like, here's this person assigned female at birth, but is very, like, is named UncleBear and has this masculine energy about them and, like, whatever is going on here. And so, you know, I wonder how your gender identity has sort of evolved over time. Like, you know, before stream you were mentioning some stuff about your history and what your dad would call you and things, and I would love to share some of those stories with our audience if you're open to sharing.
Yeah. So I was very fortunate that I was raised in a household where some of the gender norms were not enforced. My mother had a lot of masculine gender qualities. My father had a lot of feminine gender qualities. And of course, I don't think they had any consciousness around this. But that's just how they were rocking their lives. And my father, from as long as I can remember, his name for me was boy girl. He, not tomboy, not, you know, anything other than, like, he could sense something about me that was the phrase that could encapsulate some of my energy. And I role modeled my stuff. I mean, my model growing up was my brother, my older brother, Lewis. And I really felt like I was his little brother. And that awareness was pervasive. At the same time, there was also the awareness that I really liked girls. There was no question. I mean, there was never a time in my life that I didn't have a great attraction, affinity to girls, to women. And so this is, you know, I was born in 1964. My dad, by the way, was born in 1917. Get your heads around that.
Wow.
Okay.
So how old was your dad then when you were born?
40 something, right?
Don't
make me do math. Don't make me do math.
47?
47. Okay. So yeah, so wrong. You know,
math's hard.
Math is beyond. That is not where I have ever focused. But yeah, so I had this older brother that I was modeling after. I had a more masculine identified mother. I had a more feminine identified father. But at the time, in the 60s and 70s, we didn't have the language that we have now. I mean, just not even close. There's just, it's hard to explain to anyone the lack of the ability to say this is who I am reflected in society and culture.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only thing it could reflect you is horrible things. So, you didn't want to be that. So the first thing that I kind of gravitated to, because I didn't have, and I think especially this is because, like when I think about Leslie Feinberg, and I think about Stone Butch Blues, and I think about some of the early trans women and activists and all that energy that was kind of fomenting in the 50s and the 60s, most of that was in urban centers, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you were like in a suburb of Detroit, which is where I grew up, we just didn't have anything to hang our hats on. And so I became a butch dyke because I thought that's the closest thing that I can hold my identity, that is who I am. And it was very resonant, and I still have a big affinity and still a resonance with that. But it wasn't until the 90s that I was able to kind of go, oh, okay. So this boy-girl journey has these other reflective roots that just have been buried, have been destroyed. Let's be clear, not just buried, have been destroyed purposely, in gender expansiveness and transness and non-binariness, all these things. And so it wasn't until the 90s where I was like 30 before I could kind of like place myself as something that was not butch dyke.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's kind of like a little bit of how it's gone.
Yeah. I remember having some of the, like, I had a conversation, and I guess content warning for some casual transphobia. I don't think it was intentionally malicious, but I remember having a partner once who was very much identified as sort of a femme lesbian, and she talked to me about how all the femme lesbians are mourning the loss of all of these butch lesbians because all the butch lesbians are actually trans men or trans masculine non-binary people. And so there was a whole thing about that. And it took me a couple years after that relationship ended to actually consider being on HRT because I was so scared of that whole thing. There was this internalized piece that I took on because of that. And so, yeah, part of my brain is just like, what about all of the trans women who are joining the lesbian community? Like,
yeah,
every trans man you lose, you're getting a trans woman. Like, calm down. Anyways, that's my opinion.
It's not a zero-sum game.
That's
Can
right.
I ask you a question? And
yeah.
Please, I ask questions. If you don't want to answer it, don't answer it utterly. I want to respect your boundaries. And what was that? Can you articulate a little bit about what that feeling was inside of you of kind of hearing the identity that was resonating with you in some way, kind of being, I don't know, not denigrated necessarily, or maybe, I don't know what the word is that you would use, but how did you experience that?
It was hard. I really wanted the approval of my girlfriend. So I didn't let myself even consider any of that. And it wasn't until I was dating and later married a trans person and heard about what it's like to be on HRT and have your brain run on the right chemicals. Like for me, there's all this great stuff with HRT, like you get to grow a beard. This is a Zoom beard today. This isn't, I wish it was real. It's not, but I look handsome anyways. And so, there's all these pieces. But I got distracted because we got raided by them stars though and friends. Hi everyone, welcome in. So the question is, what was it like when my girlfriend talked about how the femme lesbians are mourning the butch lesbians? It was hard to take on because there's a piece of me that feels like that's sort of an older model that is very much rooted in cisgender perspectives about gender. And it's like there are so many ways to have masculine energy in a person's body, and also I don't know, I there's part of me that I'm trans masculine. I use they them pronouns. Like I'm non-binary, I'm not a trans man, at least not today. And who knows what'll happen in 10 years. But for today, that's true. Whee! But like, yeah, I think that it was really hard. I don't know how else to put it besides it was just really hard.
Yeah.
I like internalized that fear. And there was this whole thing where like when she first started dating me and met me, it was like, oh, I found this magical butch unicorn. There's so few butches anymore. Now I found one, and really it was like egg mode transmasculine person. And it's like, you know, there needs to be room for all the little trans masks to blossom and grow and become themselves. And
Yeah.
anyway,
Yes.
but honestly, you know, it's meeting people like you and other like transmasculine people who are just out there in the world being themselves that I was like, oh, I'm not the only one. Wee.
Yeah.
So like, thanks for talking to me on my friend's couch so long ago about
Well,
whatever we talked about. I don't even know what we talked
yes.
about. Did we sit in a sauna once? I don't know.
I think we did sit in the
been a
sauna
minute.
once. I do. And I want to reflect back this point that I think is the, like, where I'm feeling it in my body and my sense of self is that the pressure of conforming to expectation to not lose connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that that's applicable across so many different experiences. I think though in gender, that is it's potent.
It is.
Right? So
yeah.
God forbid you're who you really are, because it's going to go against my expectation of who I need you to be, want you to be, expect you to be. And I'd rather project that than to be present and feel the fucking, I told you I'd say it, feel the complications
yeah.
of what that's going to bring up in me. And, you know, that's the thing. It's like, instead of being with the discomfort that that's going to bring up in me,
mm-hmm.
instead, I'm going to not support the you
mm-hmm.
that is wanting to come forth. I mean,
yeah.
My mother loved that I was a lesbian. It was that kind of thing that my mom would be at a party and they'd be talking about like their kids. And one of the first things my mom would say, and my daughter's a lesbian. And, you know, this is, you know, we're talking the 80s.
Yeah.
You know, 90s.
Yeah.
She loved it. She was so proud of me. But when I finally put the pieces together in my 30s, my mother could not hold that.
Mm-hmm.
And she would say things, not horribly mean, but she would center her experience. And so can I do a little content warning right now and say something that's not horrible, but it was horrible for me. She said to me, I had a daughter, not a son.
Mm-hmm.
And to have the person that I love, my mom, I'm a mama's boy, to have the person who had accepted me and had done all this amazing advocacy of who I was, to then this other essential part of me just utterly not be able to be with it. It's heartbreaking.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So I wanted to honor that your experience seemed resonant that way. And I think a lot of us, you know, we just want to be who we are.
Yeah. It's like I'm
wow,
not trying to
hard.
make a huge political statement. I just want to be a person, but everyone's politicizing my body and my life. It's overwhelming.
And God forbid that I'm asking you to change some of your neural pathways around my name, my pronoun, my experience. Oh, wow. Am I asking a lot of you? You know, it's crazy. Excuse me.
It's wild.
Right. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. Yeah.
It's totally wild.
Yeah, it's totally wild.
You know, I had my my mom on the show recently. I don't think it was last week. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I can send you that episode if you want to go watch it later.
I'd love to see it.
It was really cool to have that conversation with her. And we talked about how she went through the grief experience. And then, like, it was really hard for the two of us to stay in connection while she was going through that. And she actually had other trans people in her life that were kind of explaining it to her and like kind of what I was going through, because I didn't know how to put words to what my whole deal was. So like, I mean, I'm 3 months on HRT, but I've been out as non-binary and changed my name and did sort of the more social transition stuff like back in 2017.
Yeah.
So it's now it's 2021 for anyone who's listening to this later doing time math. It's been, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, 4 years. And so like it's, she had a lot of things to go through, and she had to let go of calling me the D word And that was a whole thing. Like, letting go of daughter was a whole thing. And a dear friend of mine actually suggested, because my mom had more attachment to saying the phrase darling daughter than like almost any other name or nickname for me. And so we had to come up with a different nickname for me that had that same sweetness, but was more gender affirming for me. And my friend, who's actually here in the chat, but I won't call you out because I know you're shy. My friend suggested to my mother, like, what if you said darling descendant instead? And so, you know, again, non-binary, not trans man over here. So we had to come up with an alternate word than you know, darling son or whatever. And so darling descendant. So now mom calls me her darling descendant. And it's very sweet. No, I love it.
It is so sweet. And I utterly respect that it's hard. It's hard for folks to, it's hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's all, you know, I don't know of anyone who has this down. We're at a new point as humans and looking at this part of our humanness.
Yeah.
This gendered part of our humanness, you know. So I don't expect perfection.
Yeah.
I just expect people to defer to respect.
Mm-hmm. Well,
right?
and that's part of why I love having this talk show, because I can talk to more than one person about all this stuff. Because no one person has all the answers about gender. And so that's why even in the intro we're like, nobody's a monolith. Nobody has all the answers about gender. But maybe if we talk to 100 people about gender, we might just start to glimpse what the heck even all this is. Maybe.
Yes. I really appreciate that you did that. That is like so spot on, you know. And also, one of the sadnesses in my heart has been seeing concretization around gender as gender has become more expansive, which is a really weird mind thing, you know, that people want to, again, because security is such a big deal for humans and certainty, we want to still like, okay, then we're going to grab this word. We're going to grab non-binary and we're going to concretize it. And we're going to concretize, you know, all the different words. And it's like, okay, I understand this desire. I have it too. And that's not what this is about. You know,
can you define concretize for us?
To make it a monolith, to make it a static state, right?
Like so, putting it in cement.
Yep, that's
or
it.
Like amber. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. That's not how this particular. I don't think our humanness in general has this, but especially with gender. You know. We're finally catching up to the reality that there's this gorgeous part of who we are that shows up in a multitude of ways. You know, how do we respond and respect that? How do we live with that and move with it and like go through the complicated feelings? It's okay to have these complicated feelings. That's all right.
Yeah.
Good job. Good job.
Yay. So, I have a question for you that I think I asked it when we were sort of getting ready, but I'm curious if you are on HRT or considering HRT at all, and why or why not, and I would love to talk more about that.
Well, okay, so one of the just really simple pieces of it is that I do come from hairless people. I saw both my father and brother struggle. At various points, they would be in their bonnet and they're like, okay, I'm going to grow a beard. I'm going to grow a mustache. Not so much. You know, they just like, I wish you could see my body. We're hairless folk. And so one of the biggest draws for me would be having what you're having right now in our Zoom talk.
Yes.
I love this. I want some of this. And I know we talked a little bit about putting minoxidil.
Yeah. So basically the active ingredient in Rogaine. You can get the minoxidil foam and put it on your face.
Yeah. I suspect though it would not to the degree that I would like. So that's one reason.
So there's this great subreddit I should send you to. Maybe I'll have to
teach
you how to use Reddit. I don't know if you know how to use Reddit, but
more than I know how to use Discord.
That's fair. So there's a Reddit called Minox Beards, and you can see before and after pictures of people, mostly cis men, but people who use minoxidil to increase the density in their beards, and it's incredible.
Really?
Like you have to do it every day, twice a day for like a year. Like you have to stick with it and not give up. And there's absolutely the ugly duckling phase where you're in between things and everything
That's
is
fine.
whatever. But
That's fine.
people go from really scraggly to like full beards on their faces, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you're not the first trans person I've talked to who said, I don't think HRT will give me enough of a beard, so I'm not even going to try. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, but there's so many other things that it does, though.
Yes.
Also, that are great.
Well, here's another piece of why I haven't gone on it is
Mm-hmm.
that by the time my identity was kind of fully moving in a way that I understood myself as a trans masculine and trans expansive genderqueer kind of human being, I really also had this desire that I did not want to do anything until my body was done with menopause.
Mm-hmm.
And that has only happened in the last year.
Wow.
And I'm
So
an
you
outlier.
you can like skip any kind of hysterectomy, anything, because you don't have that
Yes.
going on anyways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the thing is that, so that was one of the things I was like, you know what? I just want to see it out. So that's just recently happened.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part of it, and this is the part that is the clincher right now, is that I live a nomadic life right now.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to make that kind of commitment, I need to have stability.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really do think I was actually talking to an ex this morning who I adore. And we were talking about, and it was like, I wasn't tracking that we're going to have this conversation, but we were talking about HRT. And when I think that like that is when it's going to be, because I really want to be a mustachioed, bearded old man. That is
I
something
love
that
that for
I
you.
would love. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that like it will be time. So I have been waiting, I think, for the right timing. And now that you're telling me that I can, well, then I'm willing to give that a try.
That's so cool.
Whereas I really, seriously, if I don't get that, I kind of don't want to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's for me, it's been interesting because my brain chemistry has changed. And I don't just mean my sex
Right.
drive has gone up, which is also true, and you hear about people going on T, but
Yes.
like my ability to think has gotten better. Like I'm self-diagnosed with ADHD and autism. And so there's lots of brain fog, there's lots of memory issues, etc. But I also have I've had chronic depression, and I think it's because of gender dysphoria actually. Like I'm diagnosed with depression from a doctor and was on meds for years, and it's like I actually just think being on T has made my brain better. Like for me, not for everyone, but for me, I didn't need antidepressants. I needed testosterone. That's actually what I needed.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. Right? And think about it, every single one of us is a glorious chemical experiment. And that makes utter sense that this might be the component that whatever chemically locks into you in your particular body, in your particular brain, that alleviates some of this discomfort. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's so cool. Well, and I'm so lucky that my wife is trans, and she's like 6 years on HRT, so she's further in the medical transition journey than I am, and has been able to tell me like for her brain changed when she started HRT, and like so she's male to female, trans woman, and she gained access to emotions that she's never had access to before.
Wow.
Like she in boy mode, she didn't have feelings, she didn't have like, you know, there's the social part of it, but there are actually like the way your brain networks with itself and does things, like those neural pathways just never got trained in. And so starting estrogen, she just like cried for months and months and months and months, and I'm sure she'll tell you all about it if you ask her sometime. Her handle's trans capybara in the Discord server.
May I ask you, like,
Yeah.
the difference of clearer thinking, anything else that you've been experiencing?
I did have some anger and aggression stuff come up that I had to figure out how to deal with. Like that was really interesting. Like I mean, you know, in estrogen mode, I had anger around, but more often I would be sad or anxious. And now, now like instead of being anxious, I get frustrated with things. It's so surreal. It's like, but I also have enough emotional literacy to like know that just because we're angry doesn't mean we get to yell. Nope, that's not an
Yeah.
option. And so there's been a lot of
Yeah.
like frustrated cleaning of things. Like I'm gonna do the dishes. Like, so, but it's also it's mellowed out. So it was the very first month I was on T was much more of a roller coaster than it is now. Like I feel
Okay.
like I sort of mellowed out, and I'm very grateful that I have like my little pocket friends. I have this little sort of pile of trans masculine people who've been on T that I was like, I'm going to start T and I need friends who've done this so I can ask you weird medical questions at any hour of the day. And so we made this little like texting signal group that's just like 4 or 6 of us. And so I'll send them random, like very personal things like, is this normal? Do I need a doctor? I don't know what's happening. The other thing I'm excited about is to hear my voice drop, which right now it's still pretty high pitched. But I've got this friend who's actually one of the moderators for this channel. It's sort of late for them; they're in the UK. So, but uses they them pronouns, but has been on testosterone for a year and has this really lovely deep voice. And I hear it, and I'm like, ah, they sound so great. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
You
like
know,
still need to learn how to be excited in masculine mode. Like I don't know what that looks like or how to do that. Because I still like I get excited and my voice goes up and I get whatever. And I don't know.
yeah. I'm thinking though also about, I mean, one of my concerns about taking tea, I have anger stuff and not in the anxious way. I have anger stuff that I've been working on consciously
Mm-hmm.
for a very long time that shows up as aggression.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've had to, because not wanting to have a negative impact on the people that I love
Yeah.
and trying to be responsible for my emotional literacy. I've worked my ass off to get to the place that I am right now. And there is a part of me that's like, that's another reason why I want stability, because, you know, I don't have any, I also think it's bullshit when we're like, you're going to take testosterone, you're going to become like the Hulk. I mean, that is bullshit too, right? And of course, everything has an impact. So I really want to make sure that I have my pocket friends. I have these things in place, so that I could help just understand what I was experiencing, let alone not, you know, first do no harm. I have no desire to get into that kind of funky space,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, there are a couple of resources that I just want to mention on the topic of having community around trans stuff. So I know that for you, Uncle Bear, you're very new to Discord and the things. And I would be delighted. I would be delighted
Like
to
yesterday.
teach you. Yeah, I would be delighted to
Yesterday.
teach you some more if you felt like learning, but no pressure on that. So there's my Discord server, and we actually have spaces for questioning gender, and then we have gender and sexuality. We also have questioning sexuality and attraction, which is a separate sort of questioning channel. So we have all these channels because people can actually talk and like learn things and have specific topic conversations. So it's a little more structured. So for folks that are perhaps autistic like me and it's like I don't know how to socialize, how do I social here, I don't know, there's like channels with descriptions that tell you what you're supposed to talk about there. So it's like, okay, now I know what I'm supposed to say here. And so that's not intended as a control thing, that's intended as a little bit of like structure so that people can play within the structure and have
Right.
that space. We also have all kinds of community agreements about safety and being mindful of others and all of that.
Really
You said something about not harming others and the importance of that. So my server is somewhere around 350, 375 people, which I would say is medium sized. And then the other Discord server I'll mention, and I can send this to you, I also just put it in the chat, is the Trans Community Center. And they have over 4,000 people in their server. So
wow.
they're just 10, 11, 12 times bigger than my server. It's just a lot. But they have a lovely community of trans folks, and they have even more specific topics like trans masculine people can talk about trans stuff here, and they have like, if you're transitioning, let's talk about social transition, medical transition, like different channels for those different specific things.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like we took Reddit, but we only took the good bits of Reddit and left all the shitty BS over there, and it's more moderated than Reddit. So
well done.
There's that. So there's those two things. I also would be happy to add you to my little brain trust group if you want a bunch of pocket friends. We're not all in our 20s and 30s. Some of us are in our 40s. I don't know if any of us are in our 50s yet, but you know.
You will be.
Yeah. So if you want to get on my little Signal little text thing, I'd be happy to add you. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. Community is such an important piece of this. Like, you know,
Huge.
part of why I started streaming and why my wife is cool with supporting me doing streaming and not having a day job and having this be my day job is because there's so many trans people that need community.
Yeah.
And so I would say I put between 10 and 20 hours a week into my Discord community. Just being around, reading messages, connecting with people, being present. Like, you know, there was a time in my life that I wanted to be a chaplain and was trying to train to be a chaplain.
Yes! I remember that's some of the conversation we had on the couch.
Yeah. And then I became a pagan witch person, and then I was like, you can't get paid to do that. I better go do something else.
Not so much.
So yeah, I switched religions in seminary. It's a good time. Yeah. So, you know, this, I mean, I'm hesitant to use the M word, but this is the spiritually supportive offering to the world is like my little Discord community, and that presence and that listening. You know, I found a way to do it in my own way that's, you know, still doing the thing. Because for me, it's like, it's my vocation, is like being present with people and loving them.
Absolutely.
And it's still hard to figure out how to get your fact of life issues figured out when that's your vocation. But
yeah, that is like what I'm trying to figure out at my age. You know, I don't want to work for other human beings anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe consulting gigs, I can still do that, but yeah, no, I've done that.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah,
have
many years.
Probably
have
the
t-shirt.
t-shirt to the donation
couple t-shirts.
bin.
I have with glee.
With glee.
Yeah. Glee.
That's so awesome.
Indeed.
Oh, I love it. Well, what are some things that you want to make sure folks know about your perspective on gender and trans or non-binary issues?
I wrote things, but now I don't remember them. Do you want to remind me?
Sure. Yeah. So you wrote, gender is not static because humans are not static.
Yes. Know that. Please. You don't have to get to any particular point. There's no end necessarily, because change is the only constant. Impermanence is the only game of town. That's it. So, of course, your gender is going to be an evolving thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I do want everyone to remember that. What else did I say?
You said two other things. You said gender is one of the ways we human in the world.
Yeah, it is one of the ways we human in the world. So think about it. It's like as we show up belly to belly or like 6 feet away from each other, our gender is that wonderful fertile space in between in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we talk a lot about the visual of gender, right? About the reading and all the different things that we want to place upon it, but it is the whole energetic field of who we are, if you think about it, right? And how we express ourselves and how we communicate and connect. All that is part of gender.
Yeah, there's definitely a social aspect to gender, for sure.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
So there's gender presentation, and then there's gender identity, which is like in your brain.
Yes,
but the presentation is very much out in the social and in between the people. You just said things about energy, and now ADHD brain wants to run down a different rabbit trail that is not this other question.
Run! Let's run! Let's go, let's hop.
I wonder about any experiences you have with gender wonderfulness in ritual and in witchy spaces. Have you ever done ritual with God X, for example? Like the non-binary, not God, not goddess, but God X. Or have you heard of the phrase priest X instead of priest or priestess?
Yes. I would say not so much in formal witchy spaces like reclaiming. I think reclaiming is just now starting to understand a little bit about how we have a both and or a transcendent experience of the divine, right, within ritual. So I don't think that's really yet still, it's coming into that space. But in my own personal life with ritual that I do with other human beings and folks just all over the place, yeah, I think more and more I experience connecting to divinity that is genderful or transcendently gendered, right? The particular words Godex, no, but not God or God, a God or goddess, you know what I mean? So like letting go of some of these ways that we frame divinity, right? So I do experience
I love star
that.
being.
Star being.
Instead of star goddess, calling that entity star being.
Star being, yes.
It's so
Beautiful.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because think about it, you know, that's the problem with gender, in my opinion. Again, the concretizing. You close the conversation down, you know, if that's your default.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that there aren't places or there aren't moments that we can like look at a binary. Sure. But also, let's just be clear, that's okay. It's my opinion, only my opinion. It's fucking boring. Okay?
Yeah.
So like
binaries are boring.
Let's be more interesting about our relationship to the divine, shall we? I mean, if that's so much to ask, you know? So there we go.
That's amazing. I think that's our next t-shirt. Binaries are boring.
Binaries are boring.
Yeah. Yep. I'm writing it down.
Yep.
The merch team will be thrilled that we came up with this phrase. Binaries are boring. I love it so much.
Binaries are boring. They are. Yeah.
They're totally boring.
Yeah, they've been done. It's like jumping the shark of like gender is the binary. It's like, oh God, really? You really have to watch this again? How many times have we seen this? How many times have we experienced this? Well, that's the whole thing. And this is like, I don't know where we are in the show. Are we getting close to the end? Yes.
We can go for 1 or 2 hours. We've been live for 56
minutes. Go for as long as we've been live for 56 minutes. Well, I just want to talk about the work that I'm doing. Is that time for me to talk about the work I'm doing? Because it relates to, okay. So the project that I'm doing on Patreon is about being creative every day, about experimenting every day around a theme that's chosen every Monday. So I chose the theme today and it's bodies in motion. Last week it was acceptance. The week before was ritual. It's been, I've had irritation. I've had all these, anxiety was a week, nature, all these different things are the things, right?
You did attention one week and that's when you got my attention.
I got your attention when I did attention. And so, the thing is that every day I'm looking at this theme and I'm playing with it and I'm creating experiments around it to deepen my experience, understanding, relationship, awareness on this theme. And so the thing about it though is that it is about being creative on a regular basis because we are creative beings and that has been taken away from us. And you can't see it, I think, any more starkly, or you could, but gender is one of the places that you see this dulling, this flattening of creative vitality in us. And I think that all of us who are gender fucking pioneers, that's what I think we are. And I don't like that word because of fucking colonization. Excuse me. Now I'm going to just swear all over the place. I don't like that word either. So like gender, what are we? Journeyers. I don't know. Questers. I don't know what we are. We are on the cutting edge.
Gender rebels.
Gender rebels. Okay. That's radicals. Gender radicals, gender rebels. Whatever. One of the things that we're doing is we are getting back into the creative vitality of our humanness. And I'll tell you, the liberation I experience because I consciously create every day is just, I never thought in a million years. It was just to get me through winter. And now we're in summer, season 3 of this project. And it's one of the most incredible things that I have ever done, is to give myself this task of being creative consciously every day. And I think gender is a perfect example of this richness that waits for us. And it's all of ours. This is all of ours. This is a human birthright. It's just the same thing like with curiosity. It's a human birthright. Creativity is not this siloed experience reserved for artists.
Yeah.
It's all of ours. And because of capitalism and because of commodification, this is the other thing. Only if you're talented, if you're good, if you're this. You know something, think about what you're doing right now. You, for the last year, have been engaging in this incredible experience of creativity, and you've created this community, co-created this community.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have participated in making this. It's not just me.
Right.
I'm just a face. I'm just a face that people hear first.
You know, come on. but think about how amazing that is, that you've set yourself to this task. And how, you know, I'm not saying it makes your life perfect, but what it's added to your life. Am I right?
Yeah, it's added a lot to my life.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so great.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I really want to say about all that.
It was so great. You even said the third thing on the thing you wrote, but you said it with more passion.
Oh.
The third thing you wrote was gender is tied to our creativity, and liberating our gender is also about liberating our creativity. So have you done gender as your weekly topic yet?
Not yet.
Oh, put it on the wish list maybe.
Oh, I have a list that's going to take me beyond solstice, because you know that's technically when it's supposed to end. So
Winter
365 experiments. Winter.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we have another half a year left.
That's so wonderful. And if people want to see these, they can just go to your YouTube?
Well, when I do a vlog or I do small, tiny video films, that's on YouTube, which is Uncle Bear's Rodeo.
Yeah.
And then the Patreon is Uncle Bear's Rodeo / Uncle Bear Klein. I think either one can get you to me. And here's the other thing, all my experiments, so all 190 as of today, are free to anybody. So yes, would I love for you to become a patron of mine? Absolutely. That'd be fabulous.
Yeah, and we all have life issues. Yeah. We all got to eat.
Absolutely. But my work has to be accessible. If my work's not accessible, I'm not interested in it. So
yeah. Well, my streaming on Twitch you can see for free also. Like I don't limit it to subs only or any of that, because it's important to me that folks can have access to this content. And if they want to help me put food in Neferkitty's belly, you know, there's the subscribe button.
That's a virtuous thing to do, folks.
I love this cat, by the way. I know you're a dog person, not a cat person.
True.
But once upon a time, you met Neferkitty in that friend's basement.
I did. And I thought that Neferkitty was pretty cool.
As cats go, she's one of the better ones. Yeah.
I would say yes. Yeah.
She's actually the logo for my channel. It's not me.
I know.
It's my cat.
I noticed. I was like,
so cute.
I think that's It's really cute.
She also has 2 emotes now, which are just the cutest things that a friend made, and I'm so thrilled with them.
Aw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can you share a moment of gender euphoria with us? Is there a time that you were dressed a certain way or addressed in a certain way that just made you feel very, very he for the day or that moment?
Absolutely. Well, just recently. So I was in Kentucky with a dear friend, and there's been a social distancing party since the pandemic started, twice a week. The person's name who hosted is Bear. So if you go to Bear, I think it's bearcoaches.com. So social distancing and this wonderful community of people, of beautiful genderqueer and expansive human beings. And I put on just the most lovely beard, and I grayed it up a little bit. And I was just rocking that beautiful energy of the kind of coming into my, not old man, but mature man energy. And it just felt so perfect and right. And it just made me happy and feel grounded in my whole self. So that was gorgeous. That was wonderful.
That's so awesome.
And I was shaved. So like if you see, I'm mostly shaved, but I was all the way shaved. So I had this bald daddy look. I was like, bald daddy.
That's so awesome.
Oh yeah, it was good.
I love that. I'm trying to think of moments of my gender euphoria. I think, the most front of mind one in this moment is every time I turn on my Zoom, I have my Zoom beard. And it just makes me feel so handsome.
Oh, you are
grin.
so handsome.
I just grin. I see myself. I go, oh, hello, me.
Like,
hi. What's going on? This is great.
Hey there. You should feel good.
It's my favorite.
Looking so hot. Absolutely.
It's so great. Oh, what a grin. What a grin I have right now. Yeah, I guess this is a moment to check in with the audience. If you all have any questions for our AMA today. UncleBear, you've been some flavor of gender nonconforming for 50 plus years.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yes, I have.
Do you want to do the back in my day? Is there any back in my day?
Back in my day? No, I don't really have any. Back in my day, it was a lot worse. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Well, okay, here's a
and you kids should
question.
Be very thankful. No.
Here's a reverse question then. What delights you that the descendants are doing? The trans people that are coming up after you. What are we all doing that makes you proud? Tell us you're proud of us, Uncle.
I am so proud of you.
Aw.
I'm so proud of you. It's like I'm looking at you, and not only am I proud of you, but the ancestors are proud of you. That's the thing that I don't know if you understand. So the ancestors, their pride beams to you all the time. So when you're feeling funky and having difficult moments, just know that there are countless of ancestors that are just holding you and encouraging you to be authentically who you are, to be radically who you are, to show up as yourself in a gender expansive, full, whatever way you conceptualize way, creative act. All of them are just like, thank God, thank the gods, thank the godex, thank all of it that you made it to this point. I mean, it's just true. Mm-hmm. And I feel it, from being, I'm not your ancestor yet. By the way, I'm going to be your ancestor at some point. Mm-hmm. And that's, it's an amazing thing. So take heart. Take heart. I know it's hard. Just take heart. Keep yourself going if you can. Yeah. Love your fucking self.
Yeah.
My God.
For real.
Get rid of that toxicity that is just fed to you every moment of every day by this overculture. Let go of it as much as you can. Love each other. Love yourself. That's what I got. Love nature. Get your asses into nature.
I'm really excited for my camping trip this summer.
Yeah.
It'll be in August.
Oh, so good.
I think we're actually going on a second one now in September, which I'm thrilled about.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get out there. Yes, lucky you.
The internet will miss me, but that's okay. I'll come back and
that's all right. You need a break.
Sunburnt/tanned ? So there was this ritual that I went to at witch camp one year where, and I'm not going to say who did the thing so that I can talk about what happened instead. There was this person who is trans masculine, not on HRT, who we were doing some sort of healing ritual or another, as one is wont to do at witch camp. It was,
yes,
very witch campy. And the person said they're offering to the community, because there was a bunch of people offering different healing arts in this one ritual. Their offering to the community was, I'm your dad and I'll tell you I'm proud of you. And like all of the lesbians started sobbing. Like, let's be real, witch camp is like 90% lesbians. It's so great. It's like paradise. There's little trans affinity group that would gather at the dock and go swimming, and I wish I'd spent more time with that group. I was in 2 affinity groups, which isn't really a thing, but I made it a thing. Yeah. Anyway, so I look forward to being in the trans affinity group in person the next time I go to witch camp.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this trans masculine person was just like, I'm your dad, and I'll hug you and tell you I'm proud of you. And the hug is optional, right? Because consent is also a thing. But like, just
Absolutely.
there's so many people just crying and hugging this trans masc person, and trans masc person got to be dad, which was like gender affirming for them. And there's like
Oh,
this real,
yeah.
there's this real like hunger and need for nurturing masculine energy. And I think that's something that you and I both sort of bring to the world. And like,
Mm,
people need it. People need us to tell them that we're proud of them,
absolutely.
because maybe
Yeah.
their cisgender dads didn't ever tell them, and it's like they need people like us to just be like, proud of you, good job, you did the
Yeah.
thing.
You did the thing. You
Here's a
did the
dad
thing.
hug.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's been a unexpected part of my life of holding that dad energy for humans, you know.
Yeah,
Uncle energy, of course, too, but just that the affirming masculine energy.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
My stepkids have started calling me Jad, which is a combination of the letter from my first name and dad, because they already have dad. My wife is
Yeah.
dad, so then I
Right.
wanted a dad name, and like name dad is too many syllables, so we're like, what can we do? And then they came up with Jad, so now I make Jad jokes. And right now, my favorite Jad joke is someone says, "Oh, I'm back," or "I'm here," or whatever, and I'll say, "Hi, here, I'm Jad." And then people say, "Hi,
Oh.
Dad," or "Hi, Jad," back, and I'm like, being dad is the best. I love being dad. So I'm an infinite, and I'm a darling descendant, but I'm also Jad. So
You're Chad.
what are you gonna
You
do?
are Chad. That is so true.
It's so great.
Oh yeah.
Also, one of our friends in the chat just said, "Don't want to distract from the convo, but after last week, I have decided to identify as non-binary." I'm just so proud. I'm so proud of you, Brad. Good job. Yay!
Wonderful. Woohoo!
Let's get exclamation point non-binary in
Great.
the chat. We'll just spam all the confetti. All the confetti.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Yeah.
Hooray
Yeah.
for your gender. I love it so much. So yeah,
Mhm.
us just being us and being ourselves in front of people on the internet helps other people find themselves. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I just want to cry. I'm so happy. This is so great.
Mm.
This is the best job.
It is a really good job, right? You got a great gig.
I feel so blessed and lucky, and yeah, everything is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. It's important. What you're doing is you will never know the impact that you're having. And that's okay. None of us
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But when you are public at this level, and it's
Mm-hmm.
only going to grow. That's
Yeah.
my blessing to you. It's only going to grow,
Thanks, UncleBear.
right? And so think about that. Think about the remarkable impact you're having in the world, you know, how people can like resonate with what you're doing and the guests you bring on. And I guess the gaming that you do, I don't know, but that stuff, but all that stuff, you know, your love for your spouse, your love for Nefertiti, all
Yay.
the things, you know, I mean, it's just
We
like,
call it being aggressively wholesome.
yeah, it is aggressively wholesome. It really is. I felt a little bit like I don't think I'm that wholesome. I'm
That's
like, is that
okay.
gonna be okay?
It's okay.
I'm gonna sully the
Yeah,
wholesomeness.
the explicit warnings on the podcast. We say not for children, but not 18 plus. So PG-13 is very much what we're aiming for. So a couple
Yes.
F-bombs are allowed. It's just maybe
Yes.
not every sentence.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the salt,
trying.
not the protein in the
Yes, it is the salt, not the protein. It's a spice.
meal. I
Yeah.
like it. You know, for
Yeah.
me, the gaming stuff, it's a special interest of mine. It has been for a long time. And I don't know if you've encountered this, but my experience of the trans community in particular is that a lot of people who are trans are also autistic or ADHD or both. And so having a special interest to like talk about is like we can stand next to each other and talk about this thing and build that connection until there's enough comfort to talk about the gender and the identity and the like in here in your heart stuff. And so it's sort of like the on ramp. It's like this is the like entry level thing we can do together that's not scary. And then when there's comfort, then the more like the deeper conversations can happen.
That makes it's those threads, right? So you're weaving together something that you can then utilize to go to depths, you know? Yeah, most human beings, I think, have a difficult time And I can imagine that people, you know, that have all sorts of incredible superpowers of neurodivergence, because I look at neurodivergence as like having superpowers to some degree without pedestaling anything.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like, how do we do this thing? How do we, you know, people ask me, how do you connect? How do you do this thing? And I think absolutely you find these on-ramps, right? You find these ways to weave together so that you can create the scaffolding so you can go deep, right? So yeah, I think it makes total sense that gaming would be like that for you.
Yeah.
I like
Well,
that.
and I
Yeah.
try to pick wholesome games and indie games. You know, I don't play shooters on stream. I guess the
Yeah,
exception is Ratchet and Clank, which is very cartoony. There's no blood. Sometimes there's goo, but there's no blood.
Okay.
It's a new game that just came out and it's very fun. But for the most part, I try to play either indie games or like really wholesome games that are about storytelling. Right? They're not so much about violence. It's more about the story. So I do little puzzle games, or you know, a lot of people in the trans community really resonate with Link from The Legend of Zelda. Like everyone is like, Link is a non-binary icon. All the trans people want to be Link. Like, Link is so great. So we play a fair amount of Zelda because it's fun, and you know, it's also for me. It's cool to imagine being able-bodied because I'm not.
Yeah.
And so to be able to like, you know, jump and flip and be dexterous and strong and all of that, it's a fun time.
Oh yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so nice. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to share? Is there anything you want to recommend to trans or non-binary folks? Is there any more perspectives or things that you just want to make sure you say while you're here today?
Well, no, I just think that, you know, the showing up radically who you are is the biggest gift you can give to the world. So whatever you need to support you doing that, do that.
Yeah.
And don't have judgments about what you need to be able to do that. And don't have judgments about all the different ways you need to replenish.
Yeah.
Right? It makes no sense to exhaust yourself. The trade-off of time for money is something that we unfortunately are involved with in this culture. Your time is sacred. It's the only thing you have, really. So replenish as needed. Don't judge what you replenish. Harm reduction is really good, though. Let's be clear. Yeah. Less harm on yourself and others is really sexy and good. Yeah, I'd say just that. And just thank you for letting me be on this podcast, and thank you for the work you're doing. And also, if any of you human beings want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, that would be awesome, because that's easy.
It is easy. It's free to subscribe, and it helps you. Have you been able to monetize yet on YouTube?
No, I'm really far from it. That's not my focus right now, especially with the Patreon project. I had to like really go, what do you have? What do you have the spoons? I have multiple chronic illnesses. So it's like, what do you have the spoons for? And I don't have the spoons to do it all. Hopefully next year I'm going to be able to focus on that more, but that does really help.
Tell you
but
a hint?
Yes, please.
Get helpers.
Yes. Get helpers.
Don't do it all yourself. Get a team behind you that supports you and helps you.
I would love to figure that out.
Getting people who liked my content enough they were willing to edit it, so then I didn't have to, was like the biggest fucking gift ever. Because now I have like 2 or 3 content editors who do that for me, and so I can focus on what are we doing next, and like and someone else manages post-production. It's amazing.
Yes, I want to
my God.
witch in magically those beautiful support humans. Please, let's witch it into me, because really that is one of the barriers for me to be able to move to the next level. And also, just for all of you, if you do go check out my YouTube content, I've been publishing since 2016. I had a lot of difficulty with vulnerability hangovers after publishing. So I stopped for a couple of years because I don't know if you know this, human beings who are watching this, it can make you feel really intense to do this, to put yourself out there. The vulnerability hangovers can be really mammoth.
Yeah.
So
I've spent
one of the
entire days in
Patreon,
beds after big streams
oh
because I
my
just
God,
could not be a person in the
it's just
world.
too much. Right.
Yeah.
So you can look back, but the stuff that's been going on since December 21st has been predominantly about my Patreon project, but there's stuff before that. There's one that I would really recommend. It's called Honoring Our Chosen Names.
Ooh.
And I think that's a really powerful YouTube. It's not a very long one, but it really talks about how we have to be honored in the names that we claim for ourselves, and that it's an expression of relationship if someone doesn't, unfortunately. And I think that's really important. So it's not about you, it's about them, the people who don't honor your name, and kind of like getting your head around that and celebrating the name that you have that calls to you. So that's a good one. So
well, I just put
go
honoring our
check it
chosen
out.
names from your blog, from your website, into the show notes and the chat.
Oh yeah,
so
that is on my website, isn't it? Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, but your YouTube is embedded right there.
There you go. Hey, thank you. Just thank you so much. And I just, all the beauty and love and beauty, balance, and delight. That's what some of the Winter Witch camps say. And just like this community is lucky to have you.
Aww.
And you're really lucky to have this community.
I am. I'm so lucky to have this community. You know, it has helped me feel like a person and not a dysphoric little sad bean over, especially during social distancing, like staying in your home time. Like, yeah, finding online community in this way has been really incredible.
Can I reflect back one thing about you from like when I first met you till now?
Sure.
Wow, your vibration is so much more integrated.
Aw, thank you, friend.
It really is.
Awesome to hear.
It was beautiful. Thank you. Hearts. I make horrible hearts. Okay. I got a big heart though. I do it with my pinkies up.
Ooh, I like that. I can't
horns.
do that one very well.
It's like hearts with horns.
Hang loose.
Yes.
Is this like universal hand symbol for pan? Hang loose. Hang loose horns for pan.
Maybe. Can be now.
I love it so much. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I'd love to
thank you.
Guide the channel to go raid someone else whose live I haven't picked yet. And then if you are available to hang out for just a few minutes, I'd love to just check out with you and debrief and see how that all went.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. I love it.
All right. Okay.
So thank you everyone so much for coming to the show today. It was really, really lovely to have you in chat. Congratulations to Brad, who just realized you're non-binary last week. That's so cool. I'm so proud of you. You did the thing. We're here for you. I'm so proud.